I feel the most important thing is they need to understand is this concept of inner peace is the opposite direction of being successful. So when you want to be successful in something, that means you need to, but inner peace is the opposite. You need to, so I call this dealing with issues and trauma in a resourced way.
Welcome to a new episode of Business Meets Life. Guys, today I am taking you all the way to Chiang Mai, Thailand. And here we have one of my newest friends, Revati, who's originally from Taiwan. Like me, lived in China. I've recently met her in Bali, where I took one of her courses. I went out of my comfort zone. And now currently she's on a business trip helping her clients in Thailand. Revati, Chiang Mai versus living in Bali. What is better?
It's a very interesting question because I was deciding between the two places when I was thinking about moving out of Taiwan. And
Uh-huh.
I absolutely love Chiang Mai. It's very quiet, it's very spacious, the weather's very dry. Physically, it felt good, but somehow that I felt Bali was more challenging. And because I'm on this path of growing. So I thought, I could take a challenge. And also, Bali has a much more international crowd. And I really wanted to put myself out there. And that's how I ended up meeting people like you.
Amazing. Thank you. You were actually the first person I literally spoke to. I went to the School of Unified Healing, where you are currently also giving some classes there, but we will talk about this in a second. Meeting you was very, very deep. Now, tell me quickly how, or for our audience, how did you go from Taiwan and your journey working for others, having your own business, living in China? You were even here for the COVID and ending up in Bali as an
It's
entrepreneur.
a it's it's a long journey, but in short, basically, I'm 43 years old now, and I started this self-exploration and, or let's just say, spiritual growth journey 19 years ago.
Wow.
And yeah, 19 years ago, I was in a troubled relationship, or after many troubled relationship, and I started to wonder, who am I? I really wanted to
Mm.
understand what's the whole point. Is life really about suffering? Is is life really about looking for love and never getting it? I had all these questions. I was in my 20s, right? It's very normal to have these things in your mind. So I started studying with a lot of international teachers on spirituality and meditation, tantra, healing, energy, somatics, lots of different things. And they were from, like, they were mostly Europeans. So I worked with them when I was in Taiwan while I was working in finance and PR and advertising and film. I just did a lot of things. I think I'm definitely an explorer by nature.
Mhm.
So it just kind of evolved that way because I started doing kind of one-on-one session before coaching was even available. So I started doing that around 2013. But I wasn't too confident back then. I was still, translating, supporting in these group therapy classes. And I really went on my own when COVID happened because my teachers couldn't make it to Taiwan. They couldn't go to China. So in a
Mhm.
way, I lost many of my, let's just say, stable opportunities to offer myself, to be of service to others. And also
Mm.
it was a good time for me to think about, my teachers, they're all in their 70s now. Some of them they're in their 60s. That how long can they travel? And COVID
Yeah.
is like a time to think about these things, because we lost actually two of our teachers during COVID. Not necessarily because of COVID, but it makes us realize how vulnerable life is, and we want to live every moment. So that's
Mm.
how I, traveled around, met different people, and whenever there's a market, the market needs me, business is there, and I go.
Mm. Amazing. So, because I met you, we had an amazing connection from the start. I signed up for one of your classes. You call yourself an energy coach, and I definitely got to say the breath work as part of your class that I took was very unblocking, transformational. It was amazing. Now, a lot of people are thinking, I don't need a coach. And coaching in China compared to like the US or Europe is still something like so new. Like, who needs coaching?
Coaching is actually, for me, it's very new as well because I was with therapists and healers, and I started with prana healing kind of stuff. So I was in a very limited market and I was a very niche clientele myself. So actually, I was in that market in Taiwan as well as in China. People
Mm-hmm.
just kind of wanted, can you just do your abracadabra thing and just get my problem out of my life? And in a way, he kind of did. I went to my teachers a little bit, hoping they could do that to me. And
Mm-hmm.
I ended up discovering, no, I'm the only person holding that wand, and I'm gonna be the one who's doing magic to myself. So realizing that it's actually the principle of coaching. It's
Mm.
about having somebody who can hold space for you and share their presence with you and non-judgmental presence, but also somebody who has more experience with life. That's why they call it life coaching.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think that everyone needs coaching, but I feel that nowadays the people live in a very unnatural way. The life is very fast-paced, and our food and our lifestyle and the way we are having less like face-to-face interactions
Yeah,
because we're social beings, we're sentient beings who needs like
yeah,
physical touch and connection. And that affects not only our mental health, but also our physical health.
yeah.
So in a way that I think it really helps. And I started with the whole esoteric energy work stuff that people were just kind of, what is this? Especially in China, they felt this is like, oh, this is not scientific. This should be banned. This person is just fake, and this person is possessed or whatever. People have a lot of different connotations and fear around energy work. And I felt
Yeah.
that coaching is actually something much more user friendly, let's just say. It's easier for
Mm-hmm.
people to understand the concept. I mean, in
Okay.
China right now, people are still more used to paying like a psychoanalysis, like talk therapy.
Mm-hmm.
But then coaching in a way it's more friendly. There's
Yeah,
less of a hierarchy.
yeah.
So I actually took up coaching a couple of years ago with Mind Valley platform because
Mm-hmm.
I wanted my work to be more user friendly.
Oh, I love Mind Valley. They have amazing courses.
Amazing. Yes, yes, for sure. I was following them for many years, and then when they came out with coaching, I was like, wow, this is a sign because their brand is so big, it was growing so steadily, and then they were
Mm-hmm.
doing really, really spiritual stuff. They invited really spiritual teachers. So that's how I resonated with them. But then
Mm-hmm.
when they came out with this huge coaching program, and I was like, you know what? This might be a movement that I should look into. And I
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't really put myself kind of esoteric, a little energy fairy. I should be more grounded, and especially working in China. When I started with an agency in Shenzhen,
Mm-hmm.
and they did sexual education
Mm-hmm.
because being scientific is the only context that Chinese people felt comfortable enough to talk about sex and to talk
Mm.
about their troubled relationships because of imbalances of a sexual life. And I was thinking to myself, if we can put a very safe frame, a scientific frame to how we do things and how we look at ourselves, and maybe it's much easier for people to open up. And then that's when
Mm.
the work can really go deeper.
Yeah. Now let's talk a little bit more about like the sexual education coaching part that you have done in Shenzhen. And I remember when we spoke, you were saying that, oh, you have more and more Chinese coming to Bali, taking your coaching, your trainings, all the work that you're doing, and you think that China has a big need for it. I mean, you work with not just Chinese, but with so many people from around the world. Why do you think China is a big market and the people there have such a need? And also, I remember like in comparison to, I know that like taking the MBTI assessment is huge, even on dating apps, and psychoanalysis is big, like versus that.
I feel that China is a big market. Of course, they have, 1.4 billion people, that's for
Yes.
sure. But also because when people have the ability to spend more than just everyday necessities. They think about their mental health. They think about their well-being
Mhm.
beyond the physical health. So in a way that China is very much getting into that. And when I was translating my teachers in China, I really saw how things demand was growing everywhere in many different cities. I used to have one teacher flying into China. We'll cover three different cities within the whole month that he's there. And I remember for my breathwork teacher, he was doing childhood therapy with breathwork, and he
Okay.
would do like these long, like 7 days long workshops.
Hmm.
And we covered 154 people within 3 years.
Wow.
People followed us, and these are not, they're really average people, because our organizer was, she owned many different kindergartens in one city up north in
Hmm.
Shandong. So the people who were coming first were their kindergarten teachers, preschool teachers, and then the
Wow.
parents of the kids start coming. So
Uh-huh.
that's when I was really touched, because I feel that just historically what China has been through, in terms of the one child policy, and the whole economic change and the political change, like many big things, big shifts happening in a very short amount of time. So they need a lot of support. And with such a huge population, just imagine the children, the kids, our future. They really need this. And I need to start it with their parents. And that's exactly where I started. you know,
Mm.
Life brought me there. I didn't know I was going to have an organizer who is going to be hosting breathwork for 3 years, first with her employees, and then with the parents of the children. And the transformation I witnessed, it was amazing. And it really helped me connect the land.
Mm.
Taiwan is very westernized. We have president, we have the whole system exactly the same as the US. So for me, it was always kind of like there's a veil covering
Mm.
China and Chinese people, even though my lineage and my blood, like my grandfather came from China after the war.
Yeah.
So like it was, well, first of all, there was the market that's calling, and there
Yeah.
was work that was calling. Life brought me there, business brought me there. But then there was also something existential about me, about
Hmm.
my life and my past and my lineage and my history that's connected with that land. So for me, there is a personal importance, but also on a social level,
Mm.
it's good that I have a presence in that market.
Yes, and although you're living in Bali now, you regularly come back to China. I mean, it's just a 5.5 hour direct flight now, which is good. Can you share a couple of those key transformations that you were able to get from the parents, for example, that you have just mentioned that you've worked with? Because I feel like for a lot of people, it's intangible. Oh, breath work, esoteric, energy coaching. Like, what do I really get out of this? Or why should
It's
also
very
like more parents, for example, work with it? Well, or with you?
right now that my Chinese clients and my Chinese friends are telling me their kids, like in their classes, they're in different cities. Like some of them are in Guangzhou, some of them in Shenzhen, some of them in Shanghai, in Suzhou, Beijing.
Yeah.
They tell me that in their children's classes, like 20 to 30% of the kids have mental issues.
Really? I
Yeah,
didn't
and
know it
my
said that.
clients, I know my clients, their kids go to good school, very good schools, because they could afford my work. So their kids go to really good schools.
Mm-hmm.
And then I remember one of like two people told me that they're in Guangzhou, and they told me that from two different classes, two different age group of the children, they had 12 to 15 kids with mental issues, and some of the kids are bipolar,
Oh.
bipolar at like age 10. It was really shocking and heartbreaking for me to find out about this. But
Mm-hmm.
this is after my 3 years of breathwork field training in the north.
Mm-hmm.
Because I remember we went to a city where spirituality was not really a big thing. Like, it was not like Shanghai, Beijing, Shenzhen, Guangzhou. It was like Linyi. It's like a very small city in a way. People are really down to earth, their life and their families and their relationship were really simple. And
Mm-hmm.
because they're in Shandong area, so they're very Confucius. So,
Mm-hmm.
the way they are, the bond of the family is very different. And they were
Mm-hmm.
the last people that you would think will want to do breath work.
Mm-hmm.
They knew that we want our children to grow healthily. If I have emotional issues, if I cannot hold space for my children, if I have trauma, that it's going to affect my marriage and it's going to affect my children. And I don't want that.
Mm.
So that's the key when these parents who came to our classes, I mean, they were really confused when they walked in. They were like, okay, I don't I know I have maybe like a temper, but I don't what is trauma? Because when you use the word trauma, they're like, it sounds like really bad.
Vanessa.
And right. But once they lie down, they start breathing. And also because we teach like mostly psychologically based, like, the developmental trauma over like the age between 0 to 7. We talk about it. We teach it like in a lecture. So they
Mm.
kind of understand, okay, so when I was a baby, if I didn't get enough milk and if my family was poor, what that could do to me, like mentally, maybe that will block my it will create like a negative belief about wealth. And maybe I always feel that things are
Oh,
not enough, and I will have a certain attitude towards my children, and they're not going to be able to connect to the abundance of life. Or I would do it in a compensated way, that I would just give my children a lot of money. And I would just think, if I give them money, I give them a lot of food, and I give them exactly what they want materially, they
yeah,
will be healthy. But then they start to realize it's not so.
yeah.
And but the breath work is really, it gives them an experience into the subconscious mind. And
Mm.
and then it's usually for people who are new, they experience like the surge of emotions and they didn't even realize it was there. But usually what happens is that certain memories are triggered and they remember what has happened in their childhood. And they thought, it was like put away in the closet like a long time ago.
Wow. So you're really helping them to reconnect to the subconscious that they even like can unblock traumas from. I mean, this sounds crazy. Like when they were basically just like a newborn baby, just a few months old. That's very impressive. And how it actually like impacted like not only their whole life, but even how they become how they're parenting their children.
Yes.
Super impactful. Okay, let's dig a little bit deeper into Tantra. I remember it's a year ago, just for fun. I was talking to a friend and he started talking about Tantra. And I was like, okay, I had like a couple of images popping up from like India and sexuality and so on. But I actually had no real idea of what exactly is Tantra. So maybe before we dig into your journey with Tantra and how it's life changing, even like for your clients and yourself, like what is the real definition of Tantra? Because most of us, I think, we don't know what it is, or we may have misconceptions.
Okay. Anything coming from the East, it's like all philosophy. So there's definitely mystery around it. But
Mm-hmm.
like anything that becomes popular, usually in the whole development and the spreading of the philosophy,
Mm-hmm.
there will be different schools. It's the same thing with yoga. There's Iyengar yoga, there's Kundalini yoga, and there's the gym classes yoga, and there's the Ashtanga, there's power yoga, hot
Yes.
yoga, all these things, right? So Tantra is very similar in that sense. It all came from India. But the word Tantra, in Sanskrit, actually means Tan is expansion, Tra is method. So any method that
Okay.
expands your consciousness or that your understanding of your existence can be
Mm-hmm.
considered Tantra.
Oh,
So,
okay.
right. So, there's a common classification that Kundalini yoga is white Tantra.
Okay.
White is this spiritual color, it's a symbol for meditation. So, Kundalini yoga doesn't really deal with sexuality. So, that's
Okay.
the meditative and spiritual aspect kind of separated out of the so-called tantra world. But in
Mm.
fact, it's not so separated, but just for our minds to understand.
Mm-hmm.
And there's another lineage, the Tibetan Buddhism lineage,
Mm-hmm.
which has a lot of common things in interaction with Taoism practices. that deals with sex and energy and
Mm.
physicality and what happens, like the alchemical process and the chemistry reaction between men and women when they get together. Like
Oh,
in
coming
Taoism,
from China then. I thought it would come from India.
I think it's there's overlapping because like Buddhism was taken into China and it flourished there
Mm.
because Buddhism pretty much died in India 300 years after Gautama Buddha died. So
Oh.
it flourished in Thailand, it flourished in China, and Chinese people were huge on Buddhism. So Tibetan Buddhism have their tantric practices. And Taoism also, like they're just called Taoism. They have their own names in the Taoism practices. Like they have a whole sutra for women, a whole sutra for men. It's meant, to manage your chi, to make you healthier, to make you more aligned with life, which is kind of everything that tantric teachings are anyway.
Okay.
So I think it's actually called like literal translation, 房中术. It's like the method in the bedroom. That's the name of
Mm.
the Taoism book that talks about these practices. So it's like the Taoism version of Kama Sutra in a way.
Okay.
Um, right. And also, but in Tibetan Buddhism, it's like there are different priests and different pastors. Like some of them can get married, some of them are not. They just do like, devotional services and things like that. So like there's a huge uh, different schools and lineages of Tantra. But basically, it's about life. It's about you accepting your existence, you coming into terms of your natural existence. So if we think about it scientifically and sexually, nowadays people worry a lot about sexual orientation, their gender identification, and things like
Mhm.
that.
Yeah.
But if we look at scientifically, all of us, regardless of our born gender or taken up gender, we all
Hmm.
came from one sperm and one egg.
Hmm.
We received this body this way.
Hmm.
So it came from one woman, it came from one man with different sets of chromosomes and DNAs. And
Hmm.
then energetically, one is a feminine energy and the other is a masculine energy. And even if we think in terms of embryology, the feminine energy, which is the egg, was not moving at all. It was receptive and still. And the masculine energy, there were more than just one carrying it. Gazillions of the sperm were carrying this energy and hoping that, it's like a huge lottery. Are we going to get it or not? So this whole male competitiveness and trying really hard and making the effort. If we look at it scientifically, it removes the shame and these other social connotations of it. So I would like to introduce Tantra in a very scientific way. But
Uh-huh.
also, once people feel more relaxed because of the science, they can go into the energetic phenomenons and energetic experiences, and it will help them to go deeper into their psyche and then go into spirituality because they will go beyond the superficial or the material aspect and dimension of things. But that's much later. I think the
Hmm.
most important thing is to understand it scientifically
Mm.
and put away these social negative connotations and limitations
Okay.
for now. Like when I'm not saying that these social connotations are not important because we live in the world. We need to understand they're there for a reason. But we don't have to live in a very limited way. We
Yes.
don't want it to affect our energy. We don't want it to make us believe that nothing is possible.
Let's make this a little bit more tangible, as many of us have never really experienced it. Now, you're an energy coach and you also incorporate Tantra in your practices, in your work. Can you explain or show how you integrate Tantra into your coaching? What can it offer to your clients in terms of their transformation of their lives or their work?
Yes. The reason why instead of calling myself just a life coach, I call myself an energy coach is that most of the time the coaching job is very much about helping the client to find clarity in their mind to see why they have certain issues in their life. And, the coach has a certain methodology and
Mm-hmm.
just to have clarity and more organized and a follow up and somebody being there with you to help you, encourage you along the way.
Yeah.
But I have additional energy tools, which means that I teach my clients meditation techniques, active meditation techniques, breath techniques in the session. But also when we're not doing our sessions, they need to practice this on their own. And
Mm-hmm.
there's a significant difference between my clients who do daily practices and those who don't. I
Mm-hmm.
have Okay, some of my clients have been with me for 2 or 3 years, and I
Yeah.
remember two of them started at the same around the same time. One was 6 months later, but one woman, she's less busy. She's more like a housewife, and she has more time. So she ended up doing at least one active meditation a day, every day
How much
for
time
the
did it
past
take
3 years.
her?
Huh?
How much
One
time did
hour,
it take her? 1 hour.
one
Okay.
hour. So, but then I remember when she was at the peak of her inner emotional turmoil. She did 3 active meditations a day.
Oh, wow.
And I think
Okay.
she was doing that for 3 months, like
Mm-hmm.
voluntarily. I never forced her. This is your assignment. This is your homework. I could do this with maybe Westerners, but I cannot do this with Chinese people because they have huge teacher conditioning. So I cannot be forceful with them. I just told her these are the tools you can choose. You manage your own time. If you can do them, I'll really help you. And
Okay.
whenever you run, yeah, whenever you hit a wall, and if an exercise doesn't feel good, don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I play with the coaching techniques, but I add these energy tools to them. So when they do active meditations, we actually work with this thing called bioenergy
Mm.
with the breathing, and then they start feeling things. At the beginning is more physical. I feel bloated, I feel warm, I feel hot. The nervous system is switching its modes, and then they start to gently and slowly to pick up more subtle feelings and sensations that are more energetic than physical, but it takes
Mm.
time. So one of my clients was very resistant to active meditations because she was very resistant to her emotions,
Mm.
and she was very identified as a victim because she had sexual assault experience when she was very young. So she had very good reason to be where she was. So I had to be very patient with her. But I noticed that when they do less of these exercises, things will move much, much slower.
Mm. Okay. And I also remember you told me some of your female clients became pregnant afterwards. Although like one of them, I think she was like quite like in her late 30s or beginning of her 40s already.
Yes, and she's actually the reason why I was in Chiang Mai because she's here. So I came to, I just want to support her and a baby. And but it's interesting because her husband and her daughter came to Chiang Mai. So I was like, what are the chances I'm gonna meet the whole family together again? So it's very beautiful. So basically, my teacher, one of my Tantra teachers, she's Italian. When she was much younger, she was already working with hospitals. She was giving seminars in universities about what energy work can do to people physically.
Mm-hmm.
People who had issues with, if they were impotent or they were diagnosed of being impotent, that could
Mm.
change because it's something about you being aligned to your life energy, your sexual energy. Then over time, it could, like, she had really good results. Actually, I think that her working partner came from the medical industry.
Mm-hmm.
She was a marketing PR person of the medical pharmaceutical industry. And then, so they start working together because she was really inspired by how is this possible? We're just doing meditation. We're just moving our body. It's like kind of like a workout. But how can we reverse certain things that doctors don't believe that's even humanly, physically possible?
Mm-hmm.
So that was like at least 30 years ago. So I read her book and I know her. And I wasn't really expecting that my clients would have these kind of things happening, but more of one my client actually, this actually happened. That city I mentioned to you about, like up north,
Mm-hmm.
when we were doing all these breath work, childhood therapy stuff with the kindergarten.
Yeah.
I remember the second year, the organizer complained to us. All of
Oh,
her employees were getting pregnant, so she had no staff. I'm not joking. I remember, like me and my teacher, we would say, "Hey, we have a lot of babies in Shandong." We like because it was childhood therapy. I was projected as the tiger mom, the Asian one. He was like the very UK English, serious and very wise dad. That was the projection of us energetically. And then I remember the second year already, I think at least 10 or more. Like they were they just kept on getting pregnant. And yeah, and I remember even the first time this one woman, she wasn't even supposed to be a participant. She was the daughter-in-law of our organizer. And
uh-huh.
she had to, she just got married and she had to play a certain role in our therapeutic process. And I
Uh-huh.
remember she got pregnant 1 month right after we finished our group.
Okay. So if I want to get pregnant, I make sure I have a couple of coaching sessions, training days with you then, right?
For sure, for sure. And
Oh
just
my
really
gosh, I love it.
understanding your body and put yourself in this life receptive mode, as a
Hmm.
woman.
I mean,
Because
I personally believe in these things. I understand there's a lot of things, like energy work, and I'm a Reiki practitioner myself, that we sometimes cannot explain it scientifically. And a lot of people don't believe in it, but I do. I've seen a lot of miracles in different ways. And I also know that here in China, I know a lot of people, they want to have children. It's not that they're too old, they just can't. Not even in China. I mean, and I know that there's even like a big black market for this. Yeah, we don't have to elaborate on this, but even like abroad, everywhere, there's so many people, they want to get pregnant because of stress or other reasons they can't get pregnant anymore, right? Or
no,
somebody
this
is
can be,
impotent.
I can explain this totally scientifically. So basically, when you do
Please.
meditation, especially active ones, and
Mm-hmm.
when you do breath work, it does something to your nervous system. So because you're charging your nervous system and then you're discharging when you release, whether
Mm-hmm.
it's physically or emotionally. So after a while, your nervous system finds a new balance. So that means that you can get rid of some of your stress. And then you will start sleeping better. So your
Mm-hmm.
melatonin level and your cortisol level finds its new balance. And then that's the first step. Your nervous system finds a better balance. And then it's going to do something to your hormones. And hormones
Mm.
are the key factor of pregnancy. Whether
Mm.
you get a healthy baby and you have a high rate of getting pregnancy, it's all about your hormones. That's what the doctors check for. So,
Yeah,
so this kind of things, it takes time. Like you cannot say I'm
amazing.
gonna do like two breath work sessions and then I'm gonna get pregnant. It's not like that.
Yeah. I mean, I can definitely say I attended your breathwork class, and a lot of really amazing deep things had happened in that moment. So I'm grateful. And next time I see you, I definitely want to attend more of your breathwork classes. I appreciate you. You're definitely transformational. Now, tell us a bit, like, how do you incorporate all of these, like, energy work, whether we call it tantra or however we call it? How do you incorporate this in your own life to be not just successful, but also live a happy life?
First of all, I feel that the
Maybe
fact
there's
that I am
routines that you can somehow share with us or so.
routines, yeah, that's a very, very important word. It's kind of like if you want to be healthy, if you want to have the I know how to relax muscle, you need to do the workout to make sure that muscle is ready there for you. And I've had ADHD since I was a little kid. So,
Mm-hmm.
my attention is all over the place. You can even feel this when you interview me. It's easy for me to kind of scatter. But then I don't have the normal nervous reaction to things anymore because I make a lot of things in my daily life into a meditation practice. Sometimes it can be something like doing household work. It could be
Mm-hmm.
doing your laundry. You bring a certain mindfulness and relaxation, and you pay attention to your breathing, and you focus like in a relaxed way. You can do that with cooking. or even washing your dishes. So this is at the same time, you can say it's mindfulness, but it's also kind of you need to disidentify with why do I have to do my own laundry? I wish I could pay my IE to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Or why is my husband not helping me with the dishes?
Yeah.
You remove the identification of whose job it is. You just do the task that's in front of you
Mm-hmm.
because you're available, you're present, and you want to do it. But it's something
Mm-hmm.
very small. This is not about making a big investment. It's not about opening a business. It's not about changing your job. It's something very small in your daily life. And you just remove the positivity or negativity away from it. So it's neutral. And then when you do these things, you have full presence and you feel spacious and you're relaxed. And this is what I call meditative presence. And you can bring this into any situation, any time of your life. And it becomes like an anchor that you can use.
I feel the energy on this side, and I feel super relaxed right now just talking to you here. Okay. I think
But for
that's some.
beginners, but for beginners, it helps when you do something more active, for
Mhm.
sure. Like
Okay.
for beginners, I think it's important that they kind of need to do more active practices with more of a structure, because the structure makes the mind feel safe. So,
Yeah.
if I tell you it's going to be 1 hour, a few minutes or 20 minutes or something, I give you something to follow a time frame.
Yeah.
So that will help your mind, even the cat felt it. So it will help your mind to feel relaxed and safe. And then maybe after a while, you bring that little mindfulness practices into something small. But every day, you make sure you have a few moments. It could be 5 minutes, but you do it 3 times a day.
Yeah. That
You're
sounds
really busy.
doable, right? I mean, even
Yes.
the cat came over and is super relaxed on my lap here.
Yes.
So
Transmission.
we're slowly closing it up, but I'd love to know, like, what is like some other kind of advice that you would like to give our listeners here, like for those looking to begin their own personal transformation journey, or like especially in times of like so much global change. What advice would you offer them? And we have people here. Some of them are entrepreneurs, others are running big companies. Yeah, we have people from the East, from the West listening.
I feel the most important thing is they need to understand is this concept of inner peace is the opposite direction of being successful. So when you want to be successful in something, that means you need to improve your efficiency. You need to calculate your steps and you need to fast. Like it's all about efficiency is about speed. But inner peace is the opposite. You need to slow down. So whether it's trauma you're dealing with, whether you just need deep healing, or whether you just need to be healthier, be more relaxed and be more accepting of yourself. You need to take one step at a time. One of my teachers used to say, baby steps really count. Baby steps. So it's really about taking the time to slow down. And it's about finding your own routine. And it's very important you remove the expectation of yourself. You remove the pressure of yourself. And you really assess every moment how much availability I have now to complete a task that's healthy and good for me. So I call this dealing with issues and trauma in a resourced way. That's what I can give as an advice.
Thank you so much, dear Revati, for being with us, for making time from your busy schedule with your clients in Chiang Mai. I look forward to attending one of your next amazing breath work, or who knows, maybe even another workshop in the future when I see you in Bali. Have a great time. And guys, if you love today's session, sharing is caring. Send it to your friends, like, subscribe, and see you for the next session. Take care. Bye, Revati. Thank you.
Bye.